Hey, deep divers, welcome back to the show. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave us a comment. Today, we're going to be diving into some, well, drama, you could say, in the journalism world.
Yeah, things are getting really interesting with two of the biggest newspapers in the country, the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times.
Yeah, we're talking about decisions around the presidential election.
Exactly. Specifically, their decisions about endorsing candidates and how much, influence the owners of these papers might have.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The Washington Post's owner, Jeff Bezos, he stepped in, well, actually, he stopped an endorsement of Kamala Harris that the editorial board had already written up.
Yeah, it's been a pretty big deal. Like, a lot of people are talking about it, right? Some pretty big names have even quit or spoken out against it.
Like who?
Well, Robert Kagan, he's a veteran editor at large, he quit. And Marty Baron, who used to be the executive editor, he called the whole thing cowardice.
Whoa. Anyone else?
Yeah, and Ashley Parker, she's a star reporter. She even called it a new type of October surprise.
It's definitely causing a stir. So what's the official word from the Washington Post on this? Like, what's their reasoning?
So the CEO, Will Lewis, he's saying they want to be non-partisan, present the news and let readers make up their own minds.
Okay.
He's saying it's kind of like going back to how the paper used to be, claiming they haven't endorsed presidential candidates before.
Oh, really? Didn't they endorse, like, Jimmy Carter back in '76?
Yeah, they did, and they kept endorsing candidates all the way until 1988, actually.
Huh. So much for back to our roots then.
Right. Makes you wonder a little bit.
And to make matters even more, well, complicated, I guess, the Washington Post's union is speaking out too.
Oh, yeah, what are they saying?
They put out a statement saying they're worried about management interfering with the editorial board's work.
Oh, wow, so they're concerned about, like, editorial independence and all that?
Exactly. And get this, they're even saying that some readers are canceling their subscriptions because of this whole thing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big deal. It shows people are paying attention and they're not happy.
For sure. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out for them. Now, it's not just the Washington Post, though, right?
Yeah.
We've got a similar situation brewing over at the Los Angeles Times.
Totally. The LA Times owner, Dr. Patrick Soon-Shiong, who's a billionaire, he also blocked the editorial board from endorsing Kamala Harris.
So, two major papers, both owned by billionaires, both blocking endorsements of the same candidate.
It is kind of wild when you think about it.
So what's Soon-Shiong's reasoning for doing this? Is it the same as Bezos and the Washington Post?
Well, not exactly. He's saying he wants the paper to analyze both candidates, like lay out their good and bad points and stay totally neutral.
Interesting. And how did the editorial board react to that?
They weren't happy. They didn't want to do it that way. Seems like they really wanted to endorse Harris.
Yeah, that's a pretty bold move, standing up to the owner like that. It makes you think about, who really has the power in these situations.
For sure. And it's interesting. Soon-Shiong actually shared a screenshot of the news about the Washington Post's situation on social media. Didn't say anything, just shared it.
That's kind of shady, isn't it? Almost like he's saying, I told you so.
Yeah, a little bit. Like he's maybe enjoying that the Washington Post is in the same boat.
It's definitely a lot to unpack. We have these two big newspapers facing similar situations, both with powerful owners getting involved in editorial decisions. What does this mean for the future of, like, unbiased reporting? It's a big question.
Definitely. And, let's not forget about Will Levis, the CEO of the Washington Post. He's actually got some controversies of his own swirling around.
Really? Like what?
Well, there are accusations that he replaced the paper's executive editor with some of his old buddies.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, and there are allegations that he tried to stop the paper from reporting on his own involvement in a phone hacking scandal in the UK.
Wait, so the CEO who just banned endorsing presidential candidates is also caught up in some, let's say, questionable stuff himself.
Yeah, it's kind of a mess.
Definitely adds another layer to all of this.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder about the leadership at the Washington Post and how committed they actually are to things like editorial independence and being transparent.
No kidding. So much to think about. This is fascinating stuff.
It really does. And, all these controversies around Will Levis, it makes you worry about, like, conflicts of interest and what it does to the people working in the newsroom, their morale. Journalists got to feel like they're supported, right? That they can do their jobs and report what they find without someone trying to, like, influence them. And this whole situation, it definitely makes you wonder if that's happening at the Washington Post right now.
Yeah, for sure. Like, if your leader, your CEO, is dealing with all these allegations, it can't be good for the whole organization, right? Creates this feeling of, I don't know, unease.
Totally. And think about the media industry in general right now. It's already a tough time with money problems and so many companies merging. It's kind of the perfect environment for these power struggles to happen.
So how do we even begin to figure this out? We have owners calling the shots, CEOs with their own scandals, and editorial boards pushing back. It's a lot.
It really is. But it just shows how important it is to have a media that's strong and independent, right? For a democracy to work, you got to have journalists who can hold the powerful accountable, report freely without being afraid of what might happen to them.
Which brings us back to the big question, the one we keep coming back to. How do we make sure we're getting fair and unbiased reporting? Especially now, when the media landscape is changing so fast and the lines are so blurry.
Well, I think transparency is a good place to start, you know? Media organizations need to be more open about who owns them, where their money comes from, how they make decisions. And the owners themselves, the people in control, they need to be transparent about their motivations and any conflicts of interest they might have.
Yeah, transparency makes a lot of sense. But what about us, the readers, the viewers? Do we just sit back and watch this all play out?
No way. We've got a huge role to play here, too. We have to be smarter, more critical about how we consume news. Can't just take everything at face value. Got to question the sources, look at different perspectives, and be aware of biases.
So, like, we need to level up our media literacy skills.
Exactly. We can't be passive. We have to be active participants in the information world. Engage in conversations, challenge misinformation, and hold our leaders accountable for supporting a free press.
It's like we have to become media detectives or something.
Yeah.
Right? Always questioning, always investigating what we're being told.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, thinking critically, questioning things, it's a skill. You got to practice it, use it regularly. Don't be afraid to challenge the stories you're hearing, question the assumptions people make, and look for different viewpoints. It's the best way to navigate all this information that's out there.
Okay, so we need to be smarter about how we consume news. Got it. But what about actually supporting a more responsible press? What can we actually do?
There's a lot you can do, actually. Like, first off, mix it up, you know? Don't get all your news from just one place. Check out different sources, different perspectives, even stuff you might not agree with. It's about getting the full picture, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of like cross-training, but for your brain. What else?
Well, pay attention to who's behind the news, who owns it, who's paying for it. Is it like a big company, a nonprofit, or maybe a billionaire with an agenda? Knowing why the news is being reported can help you figure out if it's, you know, trustworthy. Follow the money trail.
Yeah.
I like it. What else? Don't just believe everything you see and hear. Fact check, fact check, fact check.
Yeah.
Look at multiple sources, especially if something seems, you know, unbelievable or maybe too good to be true.
So basically become an investigative journalist.
Exactly. And lastly, support those groups out there that are trying to teach people about media literacy and fighting for a free press. They're doing important work, helping people understand the media and keeping those outlets honest.
That's great advice. So going back to all this drama with the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times, what do you think happens next?
Hard to say for sure, but I don't think this is the end of it. As more and more media companies are owned by just a few people, I think we're going to see more of these fights between owners, journalists, and the public.
So it's a high-stakes game then. The future of journalism is at stake.
It kind of feels that way. And the result of this, well, it's going to have a big impact on our democracy. A free press, one that's independent, is so important. It keeps those in power in check and makes sure people know what's going on.
Well, Deep Divers, that's our deep dive this week. We took a look at power struggles in the media, billionaire influence, and the fight for good journalism. It's complicated, no easy answers, but one thing's for sure, we got to keep talking about this. So hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think about the role of media ownership, how it shapes the conversations we have.
And hey, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back soon with more thought-provoking deep dives into, well, all sorts of stuff.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.